The will of the alien king, the galaxy had not been this silent in 1,000 years. Across millions of stars, countless alien races paused their wars, their trading, even their celebrations. Every eye turned toward one planet, Valara Prime, the heart of the Zytherian Empire, because the alien king was dead. King Zorath the Eternal, ruler of 50 star systems, protector of ancient knowledge, and commander of the galaxy's most powerful fleet, had taken his last breath. His death created a storm of whispers, rumors, and fear. For Zorath was no ordinary king. He was the only thing keeping the Empire united. Now without him, everyone expected chaos. But chaos wasn't what shocked the galaxy. It was his will. The 4 alien princesses, on Valara Prime, inside the royal palace of shimmering silver towers, 4 alien princesses stood before the Council of Elders. Their faces glowed under the twin suns, their elegant robes flowing like rivers of starlight. They were beautiful, powerful, and feared. Princess Lyra, the eldest, sharp-minded, calm, and strategic. She always spoke like a general planning for war. Princess Ceres, the fiery one, known for her temper and fearless nature. No one dared challenge her. Princess Vera, proud, arrogant, and merciless. Her hatred for lesser species was famous across the stars. Princess Nyssa, the youngest, quiet and mysterious, her thoughts always hidden behind her dark, glowing eyes. They had been raised to believe the Zytherian bloodline was pure and superior. To them, other species, especially humans, were little more than primitive creatures crawling in the dirt. And yet, everything they knew was about to change. The will is read. The council chamber was silent when the royal executor stepped forward. He was an ancient Zytherian, his blue skin pale with age, his voice trembling but loud enough to reach every corner of the hall. By the command of King Zorath, he began, holding a glowing data crystal. We now reveal his final will. The air grew heavier. Even the princesses leaned forward, curious. A holographic image of King Zorath appeared towering over them, his deep voice filling the chamber. My daughters, my empire, the time has come. I have seen a future you cannot yet imagine. And so I leave my throne, my treasures, and the hand of my 4 daughters wide to a human. The chamber exploded in gasps and furious whispers. The princesses froze in shock. A human? Ceres shouted, her voice shaking with anger. Father has lost his mind. This is impossible, Lyra said coldly. There must be a mistake in the will. Vera laughed bitterly, her sharp fangs glinting under the light. A primitive ape from that pathetic blue rock called Earth? This is an insult to our bloodline. Only Nyssa stayed silent. Her glowing eyes narrowed as if she were calculating something no one else could see. The galaxy reacts within hours. The news spread across every star system. Alien networks, galactic forums, and encrypted channels burned with the same headline. A human to inherit the Zytherian throne. On Earth, people laughed at the absurd rumor. Most humans thought it was just another conspiracy theory. How could a primitive species like theirs matter to a galactic empire they didn't even know existed? But in the far reaches of space, other alien races saw this as an opportunity. Some wanted to challenge the will. Some wanted to assassinate the mysterious human before he could rise to power. Others waited, watching, hungry for war, and somewhere on a small, quiet corner of Earth, the human who would change everything was living an ordinary life, unaware of the storm about to swallow him whole. The princess's fury back in the royal palace, the 4 princesses stood together in the private hall of mirrors. Their voices were low but filled with venom. This will not stand, Vera hissed. No human will rule over me. I will burn the executor and destroy that will if I must. Calm yourself, Lyra warned, always the strategist. If the council believes, the will open rebellion will be punished. We must be smarter. Ceres slammed her fist against the crystalline wall. Smarter? We are royalty. And Father chooses a human over us? I'd rather die than serve some weak ape. Nyssa finally spoke, her voice soft but sharp, cutting through their anger. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Father never made decisions without reason. If he chose a human, then there is something we don't know. Something dangerous." The others stared at her. Nisa's gaze shifted toward the stars beyond the palace window. "If we defy the will, we may invite a war we cannot win." A human's name, the executor's voice echoed again through the palace as the final part of the will was revealed. The chosen human wore his Ethan Cross of Earth. The name meant nothing to the princesses, but to the Zytherian Council it was a shock. The royal database confirmed it. Ethan Cross, an ordinary human scientist working at a small research lab on a forgotten planet. No military record, no special abilities, just normal. But the king had chosen him, and in Zytherian law, the king's will could not be broken. The coming storm as the twin suns dipped below the horizon of Valara Prime, a fleet of royal starships prepared to leave for Earth. Their mission? Find Ethan Cross and bring him to the Zytherian throne world. The galaxy waited with bated breath. The princesses plotted in secret. Unknown forces whispered of rebellion, and on Earth, Ethan Cross had no idea that his name had just changed the fate of the galaxy. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the first move, the human nobody. The universe already knew his name, but Ethan Cross didn't. On a small, quiet street in New Chicago, Ethan sat in his cramped apartment, staring at a flickering computer screen. Around him, stacks of empty coffee cups and old research papers covered the desk like ruins of forgotten dreams. He was a nobody, a junior scientist at a failing research facility. No family, no friends, no purpose. He spent his days running endless simulations for projects that would never get funding, and his nights looking at the stars, wishing he was somewhere else. He didn't know that, far above him, in the endless darkness of space, warships were already moving in his direction. Unseen eyes, it started with whispers in the void. In a remote corner of the Milky Way, fleets from powerful alien races changed their course. Some feared the Zytherian will. Others wanted to stop it, but none of them moved faster than the royal starship Vaykal, a massive vessel shaped like a black spear, slicing through space at impossible speed. On its bridge stood Commander Zorath, leader of the king's elite guard. His skin shimmered like liquid metal under the pale lights, and his 4 glowing eyes locked on the holographic display in front of him. "Target acquired," the AI reported. "Primitive world, species, human. Subject, Ethan Cross." The commander's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. "Prepare extraction," he ordered. "By dawn on that planet, the boy belongs to the Empire." Night of silence, Ethan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. Another failed experiment, another meaningless day. He sighed, walked to the window, and stared at the stars above New Chicago. "I wish I could leave this place," he whispered. "I wish I could matter just once." At that moment, a shadow passed across the stars. A silent movement, too slow to be a plane, too large to be a satellite. And then, without warning, the lights in his apartment flickered and died. The arrival it began with a low hum. The walls vibrated, glasses rattled, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. Ethan ran to the window and froze. Above the city, a massive triangular ship hovered silently, its black surface reflecting nothing, swallowing the night itself. No engines, no noise, just impossible presence. Blue light flooded the streets as smaller drones detached from the ship and descended like silent predators. People screamed, cars crashed, alarms wailed, but the ship made no sound. And then, before Ethan could react, one of the drones locked onto his apartment. "Subject identified," it announced in a cold alien voice. Ethan backed away, heart pounding. What the hell is this? The window shattered as the drone phased through solid glass without touching it. In seconds, glowing restraints wrapped around his wrists and ankles. "By decree of the Zytherian Empire," the drone said, "you are ordered to come with us." The Chase Ethan struggled wildly, kicking and pulling, but the restraints didn't move. "I don't even know who you are," he shouted. "Compliance required," the drone replied. Then the entire building shook. Outside, another ship appeared, smaller, faster, and armed, a rebel faction. It fired plasma bolts at the royal drones, blowing chunks of metal into the night sky. The street erupted in chaos. Civilians ran as alien rebels clashed with Zytherian enforcers right in the middle of New Chicago. Ethan was caught, in the middle of a war he didn't understand. The drone yanked him through the window, lifting him into the air. He screamed as the city shrank below him, police sirens fading into distant echoes. "Where are you taking me?" he cried. "To your destiny," the drone said coldly. The princesses watch far above, on the royal flagship Valara's crown. The bay. 4 princesses watched the extraction on a massive holographic display. Saris leaned back, smirking. "So this is the human father chose?" "Pathetic." "Pathetic," Vera agreed, folding her arms. "I've killed warriors twice his size before breakfast. Look at him, weak, afraid, useless." Lyra frowned but said nothing. Her sharp eyes stayed locked on Ethan. Only Nisa's expression changed. She tilted her head slightly, her soft voice a whisper no one else heard. "Not useless, not yet." The hidden prophecy. Back on Valara Prime, deep beneath the royal palace, the great oracle stirred from her endless meditation. Her ancient eyes glowed faintly as her visions sharpened. She saw Ethan Cross, standing on a battlefield of burning stars. She saw alien armies kneeling before him. She saw the 4 princesses, behind him, not in front. And beyond it all, she saw something darker, a threat that could destroy the Zytherian Empire, the human race, and every star in between. She whispered one sentence into the silence. "The ape will rise, or the galaxy will burn." The journey begins. Ethan awoke to find himself inside a transparent containment pod aboard the Zytherian flagship. Through the glass, he could see alien stars rushing past at speeds no human ship could achieve. He pressed his hand against the glass, his breath quick and shallow. "What is happening to me?" he whispered. From the corner of the chamber, a voice answered, cold, elegant, and mocking. "You are being delivered to your new life, human." Ethan turned. Standing behind the energy field was Princess Vera herself, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "And trust me," she said, smiling cruelly, "you won't survive it." Meeting the alien princesses. The stars outside the viewing window burned like frozen fire, but Ethan Cross barely noticed. He stood inside the royal hall of Valara's crown, the Zytherian flagship. Its ceiling stretched so high it disappeared, into shadow, supported by towering pillars of black crystal. Strange alien runes glowed faintly on the walls, humming with power older than Earth itself. Ethan felt small, insignificant, human. And yet, every alien eye in the chamber was on him. The Walk of Judgment 2 Zytherian guards escorted him forward. Their armor shimmered like liquid obsidian, and their weapons, sleek plasma lances, hummed with restrained energy. At the far end of the hall, upon a throne of dark glass, sat the council chairwoman, the highest-ranking elder of the empire. Around her stood dozens of alien nobles, their glowing eyes watching Ethan like hunters studying prey. But it wasn't the council that stole his breath. It was them. 4 alien princesses stood in a perfect line before him. Dressed in flowing silver and crimson robes, their presence radiated power so sharp, it felt like a blade pressed against his throat. First contact, Princess Vera spoke first, her voice smooth but venomous. "So, this is the human." She stepped closer, tilting her head as though examining a strange insect. "The one father chose over us, over his own blood." Her silver eyes glowed faintly. Ethan tried to hold her gaze but quickly looked away. Princess Saris laughed, her sharp teeth flashing like polished steel. "He's trembling. Tell me, little human, do you even know why you're here?" Ethan clenched his fists but stayed, silent. He didn't trust his voice not to shake. Princess Lyra, calm, composed, and dangerous, raised a hand to silence her sisters. Mocking him is pointless, she said coldly. We should ask the real question. Why would Father choose him? Finally, Princess Nissa spoke, her voice soft and eerie. Maybe Father saw something in him we cannot. She stepped forward, leaning close enough for Ethan to feel her breath. Or maybe he's a pawn, a piece on a board we don't understand yet. The challenge. Before Ethan could respond, a deep mechanical voice filled the hall. By royal decree, announced the executor AI. Ethan crosses the legal heir of the Zytherian Empire by command of King Zorath's final will. A ripple of anger moved through the chamber. Bera hissed. Over my dead body. Saris unsheathed a blade made of living plasma. Why wait? Let's test him now. The council murmured disapproval, but Lyra smiled faintly. Yes, let us test our human king. If he survives, perhaps Father's choice was not madness. Nissa's glowing eyes never left Ethan's face. And if he dies? Then, Vera said coldly, we pretend he never existed. The trial of worth moments. Later, Ethan found himself standing in the trial arena, a circular chamber deep within the flagship. The floor shifted constantly, transforming into jagged platforms, spinning bridges, and sudden chasms. Above, thousands of Zytherians watched from transparent balconies, eager to see the primitive ape humiliated or killed. Ethan had no weapons. Saris, holding her plasma blade, smirked. Here are the rules, human. Survive for 3 minutes, that's all. Last 3 minutes against me and you live. 3 minutes? Ethan muttered under his breath. I can't survive 3 seconds. The fight begins. The arena roared as Saris charged, moving faster than anything Ethan had ever seen. Instinct screamed at him to run. He dove behind a shifting platform, narrowly avoiding a plasma slash that melted stone like butter. He scrambled to his feet, mind racing. He couldn't match her strength. He couldn't match her speed. But maybe he didn't need to. As Saris lunged again, Ethan noticed something, the shifting floor patterns. The platforms were timed, predictable. He smiled faintly. Okay, maybe I can work with this. Brains over brawn, Saris leapt high, her blade descending toward Ethan's chest, but he rolled aside at the last second. The platform beneath her collapsed, dropping her into a lower pit. The crowd gasped. Ethan didn't wait. He sprinted toward a glowing console embedded in the arena wall, dodging plasma bursts and debris. He smashed his fist against the panel, triggering a manual override. Suddenly, the arena's shifting platforms froze in place, and Saris, still mid-leap, crashed hard against an immovable wall. The crowd fell silent. Ethan turned slowly, breathing hard, sweat dripping from his forehead. 3 minutes, he said, catching his breath. Easy. The aftermath. Saris climbed out of the pit, her pride wounded more than her body. She glared at Ethan, her teeth bared in silent fury. Vera hissed, her voice cold as space. A trick. A cheat. Lyra, however, tilted her head thoughtfully. Not a cheat, she murmured. He observed. He adapted. He survived. Nissa smiled faintly, the first time Ethan had seen her smile. Maybe Father was right after all. The threat revealed as Ethan stood in the center of the arena, still, trying to steady his breath. The executor AI descended in a burst of blue light. First trial complete, it announced. But beware, human. This was not to prove your strength, it was to reveal your enemies. What enemies? Ethan asked cautiously. Before the AI could answer, the entire flagship shook violently. Alarms blared. The holographic map displayed a fleet of unknown warships closing in fast. Lyra's face darkened. That's impossible. No one should know our location. Nissa turned slowly toward Ethan. Her soft voice carried an edge of fear. They didn't come for us, she whispered. They came for you. The king's secret. The Zytherian flagship, Valara's crown, drifted silently in orbit, surrounded by an armored fleet of royal warships. Inside its endless halls of silver and black crystal, Ethan Cross walked through shadows deeper than any night on Earth. The battle had ended. The rebels who attacked the flagship were destroyed. But Ethan's questions had only grown. Why were strangers willing to die just to capture him? What was in the king's will that made him so important? And why did the princesses now look at him not with hatred, but with fear? The forbidden chamber princess Nyssa led Ethan through a spiral passage lit by strange violet fire. She said nothing, and Ethan didn't dare break the silence. Finally, they stopped before a set of massive sealed doors covered in ancient Zytherian runes. "This is Father's sanctum," Nyssa whispered, placing her palm against the symbols. "Only the blood of the royal line, and the one chosen by the will, can enter." Ethan blinked. "And I'm supposed to be chosen?" Nyssa's cold, unreadable gaze met his. "We're about to find out." The doors slid open with a sound like grinding stone. Inside lay a chamber older than the empire itself. Crystal pillars rose like frozen lightning, and at the center floated a black cube suspended in midair, its surface shifting like liquid shadow. "This," Nyssa said softly, "is the Codex Eternum. Father hid it from everyone, even us." The king's message. As Ethan stepped closer, the cube lit up, projecting a hologram of King Zorath himself. The late king's voice was calm, but carried the weight of galaxies. "If you are seeing this, then I'm gone, and my empire stands on the edge of ruin." Ethan's breath caught as the king's glowing eyes seemed to look directly at him. "To my daughters. I chose this human not to insult you, but to save you. A shadow older than Zytheria has awakened. It sleeps beneath the edge of known space, waiting to consume the stars. And only a human mind can see what Zytherian eyes cannot." The hologram flickered. Symbols Ethan didn't understand flashed in the air. Coordinates, encrypted sequences, fragments of ancient warnings. "Ethan Cross," the king's voice said, "you are the catalyst. If you fail, everything." Dis. Then the cube dimmed, plunging the chamber into silence. Divided loyalties behind Ethan, the other three princesses had followed silently: Lyra, Ceres, and Vera. Vera's silver eyes blazed with fury. "Lies!" she shouted, pointing at Ethan. "He's manipulating Father's technology somehow. I will not bow to an ape." Ceres gripped her plasma blade, her breathing sharp and fast. "I say we end him now and take the Codex for ourselves." "Enough," Lyra snapped, stepping between them. "Father trusted him. If he spoke of an ancient threat, we can't ignore it." Vera laughed coldly. "You sound like a coward." "And you," Lyra shot back, "sound like a fool." Nyssa watched silently, her face unreadable, but her glowing eyes never left Ethan's. The council's warning. Suddenly, the executor AI materialized, its towering holographic form flickering with static. "Alert," it announced. "Unverified transmissions detected within Zytherian space. Rebel factions converge. Unknown entities. Watching." Lyra turned sharply. "Unknown entities?" "Designation unavailable," the AI replied. "Technology beyond Zytherian classification. Origin unknown." Ethan felt his stomach twist. "You're saying something even you don't understand is out there?" The AI turned its cold gaze toward him. "They are not out there, human. They are coming." Whispers of the void. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stood at the viewport of his chamber, staring at the distant stars. Somewhere beyond them was the threat the king had warned about, something even the Zytherians feared. Then he heard a voice. Soft, cold, familiar. "You don't belong here, human." He spun around. Princess Vera stepped out of the shadows, a blade of condensed energy in her hand. "I warned them," she said, her voice low and venomous. "You are weakness, a mistake, Father's final joke." She raised the blade. Before she could strike, another figure stepped between them. "Nyssa." "Try it," Nyssa whispered, her voice barely audible but sharp as glass. "I dare you." For a moment, the two sisters stared at each other, silent lightning passing between them. Finally, Vera hissed in frustration and vanished back into the shadows. Nisa turned to Ethan. "From now on," she said softly, "don't be alone." The vision later, Ethan returned to the Codex Eternum, desperate for answers. As his hand touched the cube, his mind exploded with images. He saw stars dying, whole fleets burning, and cities collapsing into black fire. He saw the four princesses, kneeling before him, not in submission but in desperation, and beyond all of it he saw eyes. Eyes that weren't Zytherian, eyes that weren't human. Eyes older than the galaxy itself, and then he heard a whisper inside his skull. "The catalyst has awakened, and the harvesters are coming." Ethan gasped, ripping his hand away from the cube. His chest heaved, his heart pounding like war drums. The first move. The alarms blared again. The executor's voice thundered through the ship. "Unidentified fleet approaching Zytherian space. Massive energy signatures detected. Estimated arrival, 20 hours. Lyra appeared in the doorway, her calm voice tight with urgency. "They've found us." Ethan turned, his voice shaking. "Who?" Nisa stepped forward, her glowing eyes brighter than ever. "Not rebels," she whispered. "Not Zytherians. Something worse." She glanced at Ethan, and for the first time, her voice trembled. "They're coming for you. First test of power, the Zytherian flagship." Valara's crown floated above the glowing blue curve of Valara Prime, its black crystal hull shimmering under twin suns. Inside, alarms blared like war drums. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zytherian Empire was afraid, because something was coming. The harvesters arrive on the command deck. Holographic maps displayed hundreds of unknown contacts. Their ships weren't Zytherian, they weren't rebel, they were something else. "Range?" Princess Lyra demanded, standing beside the council commander. 50,000 light spans and closing, the officer replied, his voice trembling. "Speed? Impossible. They'll breach the outer defense perimeter in minutes." Ethan stood at the center of the room, feeling more lost than ever. "Who are they?" he asked. No one answered. Finally, Nisa whispered a single word. "Harvesters." The room went silent. Even the AI paused for a fraction of a second, something it had never done before. "What the harvesters?" Ethan frowned. "Harvesters? What the hell does that even mean?" Nisa's glowing eyes locked on his. "They don't conquer worlds, human. They consume them," Vera sneered. "Fairy tales." "No," Lyra said coldly. "Ancient records speak of them. Machines older than our empire. They devour entire star systems, stripping everything. Flesh, stone, and even light itself." Ethan swallowed hard. "And they're coming here?" Nisa nodded once. "No, they're coming for you." The ultimatum. Suddenly, the flagship shuddered violently. The executor AI appeared in a burst of blue light. "Unidentified transmission received," it announced. A strange alien voice filled the chamber. It was layered, mechanical, and terrifyingly calm. "Catalyst detected. Surrender the human or your worlds will be erased." Ethan's heart pounded. They're talking about me." Vera smirked. "Finally something we agree on. Give them the ape. Problem solved." Lyra turned on her sharply. "The king chose him for a reason. If the harvesters want him dead, that means he's important." Saris gripped her plasma blade. "Important or not, if they want war, they'll get it." Nissa looked at Ethan, her voice quiet but firm. "You're not leaving this ship, not alive, not to them." The first strike. The deck shook violently. Out in the void, the harvester's fleet opened fire. But this wasn't like any weapon Ethan had ever imagined. They weren't shooting lasers, plasma, or missiles. They fired beams of collapsing gravity, tearing Zytherian warships apart like paper, folding them into nothingness. Entire cruisers vanished in seconds. No wreckage, no debris. Just gone. Shields failing, an officer shouted. Primary defense grid offline. Lyra barked commands, but for every Zytherian ship destroyed, 10 more harvester constructs poured into the system, their black, insect-like vessels glowing with an alien energy no one could understand. Thrown into battle. The flagship lurched hard, throwing Ethan against the wall. What do we do now? He shouted. Now? Saris grinned, her plasma blade igniting with a roar. Now we fight. Before Ethan could respond, the wall in front of them exploded inward. Harvester drones, tall skeletal machines of black alloy and writhing cables, swarmed through the breach. Their faces had no eyes, no mouths, only a smooth reflective surface that shimmered like liquid metal. One drone turned its head toward Ethan. Its body shifted instantly, reshaping its limbs into plasma blades. Catalyst confirmed, it said, in a voice like grinding steel. Terminate. Ethan stumbled backward, heart hammering. One drone lunged, but before it could strike, Nyssa stepped in front of him, her twin energy daggers slicing through its chest. Sparks exploded as the machine collapsed, screeching in a language Ethan didn't understand. Stay behind me, she snapped, but another drone leapt over her and swung its blade straight for Ethan's throat. He raised his hands instinctively, and something happened. The drone froze mid-strike. Its blade stopped an inch from his skin. Its glowing core flickered wildly, then shattered with a deafening scream. The remains of the machine clattered to the floor. Ethan stared at his trembling hands. What did I just do? Nissa's glowing eyes widened. The catalyst, why, it's waking up. The turning point. Lyra dragged Ethan behind a fallen pillar. Listen carefully, she said, her voice sharp and urgent. You are connected to them somehow. That's why Father chose you. You're not just a target, you're the key. Ethan shook his head. I'm just a scientist. I don't know anything about... You don't have to. Nyssa cut in. Your mind does. Father saw something inside you, something they fear. Before he could respond, another wave of harvester drones stormed the chamber. Saris let out a battle cry, slicing through them with brutal precision, while Vera unleashed a torrent of energy from her gauntlets, vaporizing 3 machines at once. But there were too many. The unthinkable choice. The Executor AI reappeared, its voice louder than the chaos around them. Warning, Harvester capital weapon charging. Estimated time to planetary erasure 6 minutes. Lyra cursed under her breath. They're going to wipe out the entire system. Vera grabbed Ethan by the collar. Then give them what they want. If we hand you over, they'll leave Zytheria alone. Ethan's chest tightened. And if they don't? Nyssa stepped forward, her daggers dripping with molten sparks. They won't. The harvesters don't negotiate. They consume. Silence fell. The choice was clear: fight or die. The catalyst unleashed. The harvester capital weapon fired. A beam of black energy ripped through the Zytherian fleet, shredding entire battlecruisers into fragments of ash. The shockwave slammed against the flagship, tearing through its shields. Ethan staggered to his feet, clutching his head as pain exploded behind his eyes. Images flashed in his mind. Alien codes, impossible geometries, a map of something vast and hidden. And then, clarity. He knew how to stop them. Nyssa, he shouted over the chaos. That cube, the codex, I need it now. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then threw him a small black shard, a fragment of the king's artifact. Ethan slammed it into the control console. The entire flagship pulsed with energy. The codex connected to Ethan's mind, and through him, the Zytherian defense grid came alive. Dozens of ancient weapons, dormant for centuries, roared to life around Valara Prime. A storm of blue plasma erupted, tearing into the harvester fleet. For the first time, the machines retreated. Aftermath. The battlefield fell silent. The harvester ships vanished into the void as if they'd never been there at all. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His hand still glowed faintly with residual energy. The princesses stood around him, silent, watching. Vera's voice was cold but softer now. You turned back the harvesters." Lyra nodded slowly. "Father was right. You are the catalyst." Ethan looked up at them, his voice raw. "Then you'd better start explaining, because I want to know what the hell I just did." Nissa's glowing eyes met his, unreadable as ever. "You didn't defeat them, Ethan," she whispered. "You only scared them, and next time, they won't run." Rising respect. Rising threats, the Zytherian flagship. Valara's crown drifted silently through the cold darkness of space. The battle with the harvesters had ended, but the echoes of their terrifying attack still haunted every corridor. The Zytherian Empire had survived, but it was no longer united. Whispers in the halls. Ethan Cross walked through the endless silver corridors, feeling the weight of alien stares following him. He was no longer the primitive ape they mocked. Now they whispered. A different name, Catalyst. Some spoke it with reverence, others with fear, and many with hatred. Ethan could feel it. The air on the flagship had changed. Council divided in the Grand Council chamber. Chaos ruled. Dozens of Zytherian nobles stood beneath shimmering crystal arches, shouting over each other. "Hand the human to the harvesters," one elder barked. "Give them what they want before they return to finish us." "Coward," another spat. "The king's will is law. The catalyst must be protected." A third slammed his staff against the floor. "Protected? He brings war to our doorstep. Because of him, Zytheria will burn." At the center of the storm, Princess Lyra stood calm and unmoving. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "We do not surrender," she said coldly. "Father chose Ethan for a reason. If the harvesters fear him, then we should make them fear us more." A shadow among them. While the council argued, Nissa stood silently near the edge of the chamber, her glowing eyes scanning the room. She sensed it. A wrongness. Someone in the council was lying. As the shouting grew louder, Nissa's gaze locked onto a tall Zytherian commander standing in the shadows, his silver armor reflecting faint blue light. His lips didn't move, but his hands rested on a small hidden device pulsing faintly. A signal transmitter. Nissa's expression didn't change, but she whispered under her breath. "Traitor. Sisters at war later, in the princess's private chambers." The tension finally broke. Vera slammed her gauntlets onto the table, her voice like thunder. "This is madness. We should kill the human now and end this before the entire galaxy comes for us." Lyra shot her a sharp look. "Father's will cannot be undone," Vera snarled. "Father is dead. His will died with him." Ceres, leaning against the wall with her plasma blade spinning lazily in her hand, chuckled darkly. "I say we keep him alive. He's bait. If the harvesters want him so badly, let them come. I want to kill one of their machines with my own hands." Nissa finally spoke, her voice soft but cutting. "You're all fools. While we fight among ourselves, someone is already helping the harvesters." The room fell silent. Lyra frowned. "What are you saying?" Nissa's glowing eyes narrowed. "There's a traitor on this ship." Ethan and the Codex. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in the sanctum with the Codex Eternum floating before him, its surface shifting with symbols he couldn't read. Yet somehow, his mind understood them. Every time he touched the Codex, images flashed in his head. Maps of hidden star systems, ancient machines buried under dead worlds, and warnings written in a language older than galaxies. This time, the vision was stronger. He saw the four princesses standing in a ring of burning light. He saw Zytherian fleets torn apart like dust. He saw his own reflection, but his eyes glowed like the Codex itself. And then, a whisper crawled through his mind. "You cannot trust them, Catalyst. One of the princesses will betray you." Ethan gasped, tearing his hand away. The spy revealed. Suddenly, the executor AI appeared, flickering with distorted static. "Warning," it announced. Unauthorized data transmissions detected. Source located, command deck. Nysa was already moving. Ethan followed, heart pounding until they reached the upper control tower. They found the Zytherian commander from the council, kneeling before a strange black device projecting symbols of harvester origin. Ethan froze. He's contacting them. The commander turned, his four eyes glowing faintly. But there was no life in them anymore. His voice was mechanical, layered. The catalyst will be delivered. The Zytherians will fall. Nysa lunged forward, daggers flashing, but the commander's body suddenly convulsed and exploded into a cloud of black nanites. The swarm rushed toward Ethan, Ethan's second awakening. The nanites slammed into Ethan like liquid fire. He fell, to his knees gasping, his veins glowing faintly. "Ethan!" Nysa shouted, reaching for him. But Ethan raised a hand instinctively, and the nanite swarm froze in mid-air, suspended like dust in a gravity well. His voice came out deeper, layered, almost not his own. "You don't control me." With a single thought, the nanites shattered into harmless fragments, scattering like dust across the floor. Nysa stared at him, wide-eyed. "You're changing," she whispered. Ethan shook his head, terrified. "I don't know what's happening, to me." The coming war moments later, the Executor AI delivered a chilling message. Multiple harvester fleets detected. Estimated arrival, 3 Zytherian days. Strength, overwhelming. Lyra entered the chamber, her expression unreadable. "They know where we are," she said softly. "Someone sent them our location." Ethan's voice was cold. "We can't. Keep running." Nysa stepped forward. "No," she said. "We fight. But this time, we don't fight alone." Lyra frowned. "You mean humans?" Nysa nodded slowly. "Father chose Ethan because humanity has something Zytherians never had." Vera scoffed. "What could humans possibly offer?" Nysa's glowing eyes narrowed. "Unpredictability. The human who changed the galaxy, the Zytherian flagship Valera's Crown, floated above the dying light of a binary star system. Outside, its black crystal hull, thousands of ships gathered. An alliance of alien fleets never before seen in galactic history. The Zytherians had united their forces. The human colonies had sent their fastest carriers. Even 3 rival empires had sworn temporary peace, because the harvesters were coming, and this time, there would be no retreat. The calm before the storm Ethan Cross stood in the Royal War Hall, surrounded by holomaps showing hundreds of enemy signatures. His reflection stared back at him in the polished black floor, a human face. But his glowing eyes now matched the codex itself. He was no longer the forgotten scientist from Earth. He was the catalyst, but Ethan didn't feel like a savior. He felt like a weapon waiting to be used. Nysa entered quietly, her soft footsteps silent against the crystal floor. Her glowing eyes studied him carefully. "You're changing faster," she said. "Every time you connect with the codex, your mind evolves." Ethan exhaled shakily. "And every time, I lose a little more of myself." Nysa tilted her head slightly, voice quiet as a whisper. "Maybe that's the point. The king's final secret." Suddenly, the Executor AI appeared in a flicker of blue light. "Hidden data unlocked," it announced. "Final segment of King Zorath's will detected." A holographic projection of the late king appeared, his face grave and weary. "If the harvesters arrive before Ethan Cross awakens fully," Zorath said, "you must not fight them directly." Lyra frowned. "Not fight? That's suicide." "The catalyst is not a soldier," the king continued. "He is a key. The Codex Eternum is the lock. Together they can rewrite the paths of stars, or burn the galaxy to ash." Ethan's stomach nodded. "You knew this would happen," he whispered. "You planned all of this." The king's final words echoed like thunder. The catalyst must decide who deserves to survive. The hologram vanished. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Saris laughed coldly. Perfect. The entire galaxy now depends on a primitive ape with glowing eyes. Vera's voice was sharp and venomous. I say we chain him to the Codex and make him do what we command. Nissa's daggers shimmered in her hands. Try it. The first wave before they could argue further, the alarm screamed. The executor's voice thundered through the flagship. Harvester fleet entering weapons range. Primary formation detected. 1,000 ships. The Zytherian Council gasped. Ethan felt his chest tighten. 1,000? No, Lyra whispered, her face pale. Look deeper. The holomap zoomed out. 3,000 more signatures appeared behind the first. Saris grinned, plasma blade igniting with a hiss. Finally, the battle begins. The void outside erupted into chaos. Zytherian dreadnoughts unleashed storms of plasma, human carriers fired swarms of torpedoes, and allied fleets lit up the stars with relentless energy. But the harvesters were relentless. Their ships moved like living things, flowing and twisting in impossible patterns. They fired collapsing gravity beams that tore entire battlecruisers apart in seconds. Ethan watched in horror as entire fleets vanished from the holomap. We're losing, he whispered. Lyra slammed her fist on the console. Then we do what? Father intended. We awaken the catalyst. The catalyst awakens in the sanctum. Ethan stood before the Codex Eternum. Its surface pulsed with alien energy, symbols shifting faster than thought. Ethan, Nissa said softly, standing beside him. If you merge with the Codex, there's no going back. He clenched his fists. If I don't, everyone dies. He placed his hands on the Codex. Pain exploded through his skull. His body convulsed, his vision blurred, and suddenly he wasn't in the sanctum anymore. He was everywhere. He saw fleets clashing across the system. He felt the gravity fields of planets twisting and breaking. He heard the harvester's voice inside his head, cold and eternal. Surrender, Catalyst, or we erase everything. Ethan's lips curled into a faint, defiant smile. Not today. The Codex unlocked. A wave of blue-white energy surged from the flagship, racing across the battlefield. Zytherian weapons powered up beyond maximum. Human torpedoes moved faster than light, and allied shields hardened like solid stone. For the first time, the harvesters faltered. Betrayal in the shadows, but victory didn't last. Deep inside the flagship, the traitor struck. A Zytherian noble, controlled by harvester nanites, hacked into the flagship's defense grid and turned. The Zytherian weapons against their own fleet. Shut it down, Lyra shouted over comms. I can't, the engineer cried. The systems are locked. Then the lights in the sanctum dimmed, and the Codex whispered inside Ethan's mind. One of the princesses carries the harvester signal. Ethan's eyes widened. What? He turned slowly, scanning their faces. Saris, Vera, Lyra, Nissa, which one? The final gambit. Ethan ignored the warning for now. He had no choice. He reached deeper into the Codex, pulling power no Zytherian had ever dared touch. Space itself began to bend. Suddenly, every allied fleet was gone. So were the harvesters. Ethan stood in a vast, empty void, a constructed battlefield outside normal time and space. The voice of the Harvester Prime filled the darkness. You wield the Codex, Catalyst, but you do not understand it. Use it poorly, and you will end everything. Ethan clenched his fists. Maybe. But if I fall, I'm taking you with me. The human edge the harvesters attacked, their ships splitting and reforming like living nightmares. But here, inside the Codex field, physics belonged to Ethan. He twisted space itself, turning their collapsing beams back upon them. Harvester constructs shattered into streams of liquid light. For the first time in recorded history, the harvesters retreated. Aftermath, the void collapsed. The fleets reappeared above Valara Prime, battered but alive. The Zytherian flagship floated scarred but unbroken. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His glowing eyes dimmed, but his mind burned with alien knowledge he couldn't yet comprehend. Lyra stepped forward, awe in her voice. You won. Ethan shook his head slowly. No. We survived. That's not the same thing. Nisa's glowing eyes narrowed. You're right. The harvesters will return. And then softly she added, but next time, they won't be the only threat. The twist ending, the executor AI flickered violently, its voice distorted. Warning, codec signal traced, unknown entity, awakening, designation, the architects. Ethan frowned, breathing heavily. Who are they? Nisa's face went pale. The ones who built the harvesters. Silence filled the chamber. The war wasn't over. It had just begun.